are not going to be on the screen, so I'm going to announce the page number tomorrow. There's one verse about Firm Foundation and one verse is on Christian Soul. I got the page. We're ready. Let's start. I moved this down because we're short. Okay. Oh, that guy's name is Getz.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Welcome. Welcome, everybody. This afternoon is supposed to be informal. It's just for memories, 200 years worth. Ronnie Wagner, who is right down here, and I go back a few years as we are the oldest members of the church. We took our catechism with Reverend Thomas Holmes in the old church, and I might mention that it was 1 year. We joined the church April 14th, 1946, along with Vivian Stouffer, Barbara Gwynn, Thomas Holmes Jr., and Ronnie's brother, Bob Wagner. I think we were supposed to have a picture. Okay, that's me in the middle, and Ronnie's just got half of his head showing. I wanted Ronnie to stand beside me, but I guess I didn't win. I attended the church, the old church, beginning when I was 3 years old, and we moved to Homeworth. So that would be 85 years ago. I was baptized in Latrobe, Pennsylvania, in the Presbyterian Church before we came. Ronnie moved to Homeworth when he was 10 years old, so that would be 78 years ago. And he moved from Alliance.
Are you finished?
Yes. I'm finished for now.
Just stand down here so you'll be there.
Okay.
Today, we are observing the 200th anniversary of Middle Sandy, as you've heard many times today. And we are honoring Carol, Stuart, Matthew, and Ronald Wagner. Ronnie, will you stand if you don't, or you can come up, or you can just stand there. Okay. At his age, we don't argue with him. Okay. They have been members at Middle Sandy for 76 years. And they are the longest present members of our church. Both of them have been ordained elders at Middle Sandy. Carol is the mother of Dean and Shelley and Valerie that we've heard singing today. She has 4 adult grandchildren and 1 great-granddaughter with another one on the way any day. Carol's mother was the organist at Middle Sandy for a long time, Evelyn Stewart Dickey. And Carol was the church secretary. She wrote from Grandma's rocking chair in the Sandpiper. She taught the Amatola Sunday School class. She was a choir member and many other things, and she is my BFF. Ronnie's 4 children are Pam and Randy and Amy and Andy. He is the grandpa to He is the grandpa to 7 adult grands and 2 great-grandchildren. His wife Elaine passed away nearly 4 months ago. Ronnie's daughters, Pam and Amy, are very active here at Middle Sandy, as was their mother. Ronnie was a go-to guy, as he served on several committees here at Middle Sandy and very, very active in the Homeworth Lions Club. And so I would like to congratulate these 2 people who gave so much to this church, Ronnie and Elaine, present-day longest members, faithful for their service. Cindy?
Are you going to come up? Please, please. If I say please. For you, and you're going to take the big ones home. But I have to say, in appreciation of your 76 years of membership, each of you is to take one of the floral displays. All summer they will blossom and be reminders of the gratitude and love extended to you from all of us at Middle Sandy on its 200th anniversary. Thank you. And one more thing, Eleanor, you got one for you. Come up here, please, with your BFF. In honor of being the matriarch and the perfect disciple of Christian love, we thank you, and you put this whole thing together with all your committee members, and we just thank you from the bottom of our hearts.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Cindy. Thank you all. And if you want anything like this, you have to last a lot longer. So, okay, Pastor Getz is going to come now and talk to us. He wants to give a greeting from North Benton Church.
You can sit here. Okay.
Good afternoon. It's a pleasure being here. Our church, the North Benton Presbyterian Church, celebrated our 200th 4 years ago. So we're looking at our younger sister. And welcome. I am bringing greetings from the North Benton Presbyterian Church session and the members and the congregation because we were sister churches for a long time. Back in the 1940s to the 1950s, we were what is called yoked together. If you don't know what that means we were yoked with one pastor pulling us along and sharing the pastor. And if it wasn't for you and if it wasn't for us, we probably wouldn't be here today, both of us. So when you think of 200 years, that's a long time to go through ministry. And when I was talking with your present pastor, Mark, talking about what should I say, I reminded him that when ministers usually get up in front of a congregation like this, we talk for an hour. And he said, well, we don't have that much time, so I've cut it back to about 40 minutes. But I left my notes in the car, and I also have to preach at Brookdale Nursing Home in Alliance later today, so they're going to be waiting for me. Do have a couple things to talk about here for you today. Not only am I the pastor of the North Benton Presbyterian Church, but I'm also the president of the West Branch Ministerial Association. So with all the churches within the West Branch School District, we also welcome and give you greetings from our Churches United. We actually are one church. It just so happens that we meet in different places. And the way I wound up getting part of the West Branch Ministerial Association was I got a call when I came to North Benton 11 years ago from Tom Sawyer. He says, "Hi, I'm Tom Sawyer." And I said, "Yeah, and I'm Huckleberry Finn." And so for the while that he was here, we enjoyed, and us Presbyterians had to lead the rest of them because they just were not doing these things decently and in order. At least we try. One of the things that goes on with churches that are small like this, we think, oh, we're just a small church. We look at those big churches with all their ministry and everything, and actually, there's more small churches than there are big churches. God loves them, so he makes them more. And you say, well, I don't know about going and continue ministry and things like this. I like the story that's one of my favorite stories about communism and Christianity do not mix. It's just like Lysol and germs. You know, it just cannot coexist. And one of Stalin's advisors came up to him once and he said, "We got to close the church down if we want to be successful in Russia." And Stalin said, the churches are just full of little old ladies and babushkas. When they die off, we'll be okay. We won't have to worry about them. Well, those little old ladies and babushkas are still going to church in Russia. Stalin who? Soviet Union who? They're keep on going. And I liked one of the other little comments that came out of that was that when the Soviet Union finally collapsed, Boris Yeltsin was their leader. And they said, "Who inspired you to be the leader that you were?" And he says, "Well, Lech Walesa was in Poland in Solidarity." And so they talked with Lech Walesa and they said, "Who inspired you?" And he said, "Martin Luther King Jr." And he says, "Oh, okay. Martin Luther King Jr. was inspired by Rosa Parks not going to the back of a bus." So when you think about it, because Rosa Parks sat in the front of the bus, the Soviet Union collapsed. Who knows what was going on? You know? And more relevant to this, there was a Sunday school teacher of young teenage boys in Chicago once, and he taught Sunday school. And one day only one person showed up. He says, "Oh, what am I here for? What am I doing?" and things like that. He spent some time teaching that day to that boy and then talked to him a little bit later in the week and converted him to become a Christian. Dwight Moody wound up being quite an evangelist and everything. One of the people that inspired Dwight Moody was inspired by Dwight Moody was Billy Sunday, who did a revival in Pittsburgh where my grandmother went. And my grandmother passed the faith on to my mother, and my mother passed it on to me. So because that one Sunday school teacher taught one day, what's meaning is this, it all comes down to, here I am. Because of that, some 100 years later. 200 years is a long time. In that time, your church has gone through some wonderful times. The ability to keep the old church going and the ability to build this fine facility. It's one of the better churches that are around, facility-wise. So that shows a lot of care and compassion from the people that were here. And we also know that you went through some rough times. There was a civil war. There was the war that we know as the World War I and World War II. There were times in our church when they were closed down because the roads were so muddy that people couldn't go on it the one year. You went through blizzards and all kinds of things. There's been sickness and death, but there's also been birth and baptisms and weddings here in special place. One final thought. Jesus liked, whenever Jesus wanted to make a point, he would speak in donkeys. And if he ever wanted to make a really big point, he'd speak in horses. And if he really wanted to make a really important point, he'd speak in a bull. And if he really wanted to ultimate, he spoke in parables. So I have a Herb Getz kind of parable. It's not ranking up to what Jesus, it's back to the donkey age kind of things like that. But I'd like to tell you about a story about a man that dies. And he was a Christian. His name was written in the book of life. He was able to get into heaven. They opened the pearly gates, and as soon as you go through, you're met by a greeter that's also an angel. And he said, welcome to heaven. You get a tour of heaven. So they're going around, oh, wow, the golden streets, and it's just magnificent. It's glowing. And in the background, he hears what sounds like chains rattling. And he said, what's that? Angel said, don't pay any attention to that. And look over here, look over here. Well, they keep on going, and the chain rattling gets louder and louder. And he says, what's that? And he said, don't mind that. And then it sounds like there's some groaning going on. And so finally they turn one of the corners in the street, and there's these people chained to a wall, just pulling and pulling and moaning and moaning. And he says, what's going on with those people there? And he says, oh, don't pay any attention to them. And he says, no, why are they chained? And why are they moaning? And he says, oh, they're all from Middle Sandy. And he says, well, what did they do? He said, they didn't do anything, but if we didn't keep them chained, they'd keep going back to Middle Sandy. This is not heaven, but on earth, this is about as close as you get. And it's a pleasure to be associated with your church, and our church is appreciative of the ministry that you have together with us. And we just get a little bit of heaven whenever we see each other. So again, congratulations on 200 years, and I still have 30 minutes to leave, but I'll let somebody else go with that. So God bless you all.
Thank you, Pastor. We appreciated that. Now let's see what else happened through the years of our church. Thanks to Hallie Jones and Rosanna McGee with their wonderful little green book about our church history, we can find out. And Chris McGee, Rosanna's son, is going to tell us about it, about the book.
I'm not sure how much of this is going to be really about the book and how much my own memories. Since I was about 18, when I was last attending here pretty much. But, I'm indeed honored to speak at our 200th anniversary celebration. Middle Sandy has always been my home church, regardless of where I'm currently attending. I never imagined when I was helping with the Green Book, as it's been referred to, that I would be discussing it in my mom's and my aunt's parts in preparing that book. As the book starts out, It is hoped to be a glimpse of the living, loving people who founded the congregation and those who followed. Reading this book for the first time in a long time, thanks, Pam, for getting me a copy, brought back a lot of memories. From my reading, my family line came to the church around 1916. I was pleased to see the pictures of my grandparents, parents, and relatives. Pictures also brought back a lot of memories of people I had let slip from my mind over the years. The Scotts, the Humphreys, the Freshleys, and so many more. The Green Book helps us learn about people we never met. I remember going to a lot of cemeteries with Aunt Hallie in the 60s and 70s researching tombstones. I don't know how much of that information made it into the book or how much or what happened to the rest of it. I do remember Aunt Hallie sitting in the basement of Rodman Library for hours on Thursdays going through the old bound copies of the Reader's or the Alliance Review, scanning for pertinent material for the Green Book. She and I also helped clean the display cases that the museum across the street acquired. She also researched and covered bridges all over Ohio and other states. That's a story for a different day. Moving on to the Middle Sandy pastors over the years, my direct memories, is also with Pam's, started with the Reverend Swanson. I remember he was, to me, very tall, and it's still a mystery to me how he ever crawled into his red VW Bug. I remember Dr. Sales, long-term interim pastor from Mount Union College. Once he got his wires crossed and was home reading the Sunday paper when he got a call from the church asking if he's coming to preach that day. He rushed here in time to do the sermon. My memories of Reverend Pallison are not as prominent, but I remember Reverend Woodall and the guest minister, Reverend Gerard. Reverend Woodall once talked about our not always taking the spotted apple from the bunch, but taking a good one. And then later he admitted he usually took the spotted ones. The pictures and references in the Green Book remind us that Middle Sandy is more like a family than just a congregation. We all have memorable family stories, and Middle Sandy is no exception. I remember working the breakfast shift at the Canfield Fair and accompanying Mom and Hallie there before I was old enough to pre-cook the sausage and bacon before it was finished on the grill. Once for a taste treat, we had deep-fried bacon. It wasn't bad, but it was definitely too crispy for some people's tastes. At the fair, we used the big 90-cup percolators, which took a good while to brew. We got behind once in getting the next one started, so we put out a pan of water on a burner and appropriated somebody's jar of instant decaf. We were careful to put it on the counter with the front label facing the back of the counter. And why I worked the breakfast shift, I'll never know, because at that time I was not a morning person. The fair was the major fundraiser for the church. The last year that I worked the fair would have been 1972, and I seem to recall we cleared $1,000 a day from our food tent. That would be a little more than $7,000 today. In the afternoon after breakfast and lunch, I had time to wander around and see the sights. I used the double Ferris wheel as a landmark since it was more prominent than the grandstand building. There were vendors under the grandstand, and one was the Vitamix blender dealer. He made pretty good smoothie with an array of vegetables, ice cubes, and peeled bananas. He talked about throwing in whole vegetables, but he did peel the bananas because, in his words, even monkeys are smart enough to peel their bananas. The blenders are still made today and even have a spigot on them so you can make soup and dispense it through the blender itself. I also like the Boland's garden tractor dealer and coerced my dad into trading up on a fairly regular basis. Boland's tractors are no longer made. Dad didn't go for the Maytag dishwasher I also saw displayed, however. One night I slept over with Jimmy Emmons guarding the tent. He knew the night guard at Channel 21's tent, and we visited with him when he came over. I remember the many people who helped with the fair. Bob and Helen Scott, Eleanor Carver, Martha Wallace are several who come to my mind. In particular, I remember Elaine Wagner shaving the onions for the potato salad dressing. Shaving is an accurate description because when she was done, they're not even onion bits, just the essence of onion going into the dressing. I always admired her patience and skill for that. I have and always will have fond memories of Middle Sandy Church in all its configurations. The old church, the new church before and after the educational wing, and all the Sunday school teachers and other people who touched my life, the lives of so many others over the years. I hope today I've told you some of the story behind the Green Book and some of my many memories of my mother Rosanna and my Aunt Hallie. Again, thank you for the opportunity to speak here at our 200th anniversary. It has certainly been an honor.
Sometime in the past 62 years, Chris McGee pedaled his bicycle to the residents of Tom and Hay Latham on Bowman Road to sell us the Grit newspaper. It's always on time and the date is always correct.
And thank you so much, Chris. We really appreciated that.
We're going to sing How Firm a Foundation before you speak.
Yeah. In the early churches, years of our church, the congregation elected a singing clerk to lead the music each Sunday. That was in the little green book. That was years ago. Today we are going to ask you to elect Linda McQuilkin, who's had this mission for many years. So with a show of hands, would you tell me that it's all right for Linda McQuilkin to be the singing clerk? Okay, we did it by the little green book. So now we're going to sing How Firm a Foundation, and it's page 612. And then Linda will talk to us about the music ministry through the years that she's. Then Linda will talk to us about the music ministry through the years that she's been here. She's reminded us that she hasn't been here as long as some of us, but I know she's had a huge ministry with music. So we'll sing the song, and then Linda will talk to us.
Will you stand, please? One verse.
How firm a foundation, ye saints of the Lord, is laid for your faith in His excellent Lord. What more can He say than to you He hath said? You unto Jesus for refuge have fled. You unto Jesus for refuge have fled.
Thank you. Go ahead and have a seat. I should have warned you it's a different tune. You recognized the tune, of course. Adeste Fidelis, O come all ye faithful, but sung to different words. And they sang this at every event at Middle Sandy long ago. I did not know this. I learned something new myself. So there you go. And you see, because when we sing, and that's all of us as a group, we share our own selves. We are really just like missionaries when we sing, because we spread the gospel through music. And we could choose to play a CD, but we don't. So I'm happy that you all are strong singers this afternoon, and besides, I don't want you to fall asleep. Okay, a brief history of the music here at Middle Sandy. In the 1800s, as your green book tells you, all singing clerks were men. What is a singing clerk? That's the first thing I said to Carol when she asked me, what is a singing clerk? Well, in this church, they were lay people who led singing. Other churches might have included ordained people paid for their duties, and hence the definition of singing clerks. It sounds like somebody half music and half secretary, but it's a singing clerk. Okay, but in the 1900s, women began being choristers, especially for Sunday school. And some of you remember the ones here, Harold Stouffer and, of course, Helen Scott, for a long, long time. Our picture that we have zeroed in on the screen there for you included the choir here at Middle Sandy long ago, that I counted them, 33 members. We don't have that many now, of course. And this included both other choirs, the junior and the primary, and accompanying was shared by Lola Emmons, Juanita Malone, Evelyn Stewart, and of course Jim Wagner. They were all church members here too. They weren't outsiders, and they took no pay. How things have changed over the years, huh? Besides the choirs, we had 10 to 15 chimers playing tone bars up in the balcony. We also had, in the early years, a reed organ, pump organ, then we went to the Rogers Electronic, and now, of course, the Holt Camp pipe organ, which you heard about in this morning's sermon, dedicated on March 12th, 1995. And a dedication recital was given by Dr. Victoria Harris from Mount Union College, University of Mount Union now. Okay, pianos too have changed over the years, and we have a clavinova that we use that's an electronic instrument that sounds like a piano. I understand Singspirations were held on Sunday evenings monthly in the West Branch area churches to sing hymns and a fellowship, and I think they gave up some sort of prize for I don't know, the best group or the best. Oh, the most people that came. That was the qualification. Okay, I couldn't remember. That was before my time, but yeah. Another favorite time at Middle Sandy over the years, of course, has been the 11 p.m. Christmas Eve service. And the church was usually packed. I mean, balcony and all. It was usually full. Most of all, I give thanks that Middle Sandy has always been a singing congregation, just as you heard this morning with the small groups of people, not just the choirs. And who can forget those Humphrey singers? Helen, Ruth, Evelyn, and then in the later years, sometimes Norman too. And many special soloists here over the years, John Humphrey and Trevor Matthey, Bryn Geist and Pam has sung for us, too many for me to even remember. So just as I said at the beginning, we share our own selves when we sing, especially in the choir, because we share our time when we go to rehearsals to practice, we share our singing voices to prepare anthems, and our friendship with other singers in the choir. Our music during these past 200 years has not changed, and if you come here on any given Sunday, you will still hear a couple of old hymns. You do not hear all contemporary music, so because they include so much theology, and we cannot let go of those ever, I hope and pray. And as Psalm 7:17 says, we thank you, God, for our singing voices. I know that I have been blessed by it over these many, many years, and it was not a job, a duty, or anything for me, or a chore to perform. It was a delight, and I have been truly blessed by it. And we will give thanks to the Lord for his righteousness, and will sing to the name of the Lord Most High. Amen.
sing one more song that we used to sing along. It's called It's a Long Road to Freedom. And then we got the pink guy. It's a long road to freedom, a winding steep and high. But when you walk in love with the wind on your wings and cover the earth with the songs you sing, the miles fly by. I walked one morning by the sea, and all the waves reached out to me. I took their tears, then let them be. It's a long road to freedom, a winding steep and high. But when you walk in love with the wind on your wings and cover the earth with the songs you sing, the miles fly by. I walked one morning at the dawn, when bits of night still lingered on. I sought my star, but it was gone. I walked one morning with a friend and prayed the day would never end. The years have flown, so why pretend? It's a long road to freedom, a winding steep and high. But when you walk in love with the wind on your wing and cover the earth with the songs you sing, the miles fly by. I walked one morning with my king, and all my winters turned to spring. Yet every moment held its sting. It's a long road to freedom, a winding steep and high. But when you walk in love with the wind on your wing and cover the earth with the songs you sing, the miles fly by. We figured another 25 years we won't be around, so
But you look joyful 50 years from ago. And I don't want to embarrass you, Jim, but put your hand up. Jim Wagner. He was their first accompanist. In the New Testament, Paul tells Titus that an elder must hold firmly to the lesson he has been taught so that he can lead others to that. Bill Smythe is going to remove for us something about our session members. Bill?
Today I'm going to talk a little bit about some of the past and present leadership of Middle Sandy. Our leadership at Middle Sandy always begins with Jesus Christ. And we always look to our pastors as our leaders. But Middle Sandy's had deacons, trustees, and ruling elders. As leaders of the church, the Apostle Paul said deacons should be worthy of respect, be sincere, not indulging in much wine, and not pursuing dishonest gain. They must keep hold of their truths of faith with clear conscience. Romans 12:6-8 says, "We have different gifts according to the grace given to us. If your gift is prophesying, then prophesy in accordance with your faith. If it is serving, then serve. If it is teaching, then teach. If it is to encourage, then give encouragement. If it is to lead, do it diligently. And if it is to show mercy, do it cheerfully." Middle Sandy's had many leaders over the years, and they have followed this passage in Romans, and we've been blessed in many ways throughout the years. Now, I'm going to talk about some responsibilities of deacons and trustees and elders. Deacons goes back long before I was around, but if you have any questions about deacons, Robin can answer those because she was here a lot longer before me. She's way older than me. We had deacons in the past, and the deacon's duties were to assist the pastor in various ways, possibly collecting tithes during Sunday service, helping with communion, possibly providing care to members of the church who were in need. Like during the Second World War, if a spouse went off to war, they would sometimes look after the children and possibly the wife if they were in need. They also assisted the trustees in financial matters of the church. Deacons also met with potential new members. They got to know these people and helped with the day-to-day decisions of the church. The earliest records of the deacons that I found was 1898. I'm sure there might go past that, but that was the date that I could find. But some past members that we might remember in this church would be Virgil Jackson and Ford McQuilkin. They were both deacons. As of April 1946, the deacons were no longer used and their responsibilities were incorporated into the trustees. So like I said, 1946, ask Robin. I'm picking on you today. A trustee at Middle Sandy was responsible for the financial aspects of the church. There were usually 6 to 8 members, and they worked with the church treasurer and were responsible for the property and its legal documents. If you think about it, a trustee had a big job. We talked about the organ going in the 90s, or the new wing. Everything that had to be done with that, there's just a lot of work. And you can attest to that. Dave can attest to that. But the trustees made sure that all the T's were crossed, the I's were dotted, and everything was done accordingly. They also had a big job. They took care of utilities, insurance, maintaining equipment, and the facilities. They also sometimes were responsible for repairs or renovations in the church, and sometimes those members, they had the skills and they could provide that help themselves. They also evaluated needs, looked at the expenses and the amounts, like I said, for the new wing and the organ. The earliest trustees go back to the 1840s. Some members we might remember as trustee, Ronnie Wagner, Ray Carver, Stu Johnson, and Arden Holback. You were a trustee, weren't you? Yep, I thought so. First women weren't trustees until about 1940, as 118 years after the church began. We were kind of slow to getting the women involved, evidently. The trustees were no longer used. They went out of existence in the 1990s, and but their positions were taken up by the elders, and the elders would then chair various committees like property committee, missions, Christian education and worship, ruling elders at Middle Sandy, their history goes back to 1822. They were highly respected men of Homeworth, and in 1964 they were only men until Juanita Malone and Gertrude Duvall became elders. In the Old Testament, elders were established as oversight for the church. Today, those who fill this office are called ruling elders. Ruling elders are chosen by the members of the church, and the elders watch over the spiritual welfare of the church. They also represent the church at Presbyterian and General Assembly. Some of the responsibilities of the elder is they should study the Word and be able to teach the Word, lead the Word, and during worship and prayer. We've seen this example many times at Middle Sandy. Scott Mason, Leonard Mapes, Linda McQuilkin, Dave Silkoch, and many others would lead worship on Sunday when the pastor might be on vacation or be at another church. They should also, ruling elders would also visit the bereaved and assist with the pastor when he visited shut-ins when they served communion. I've just given you a very, very short history lesson and about some of the leaders at Middle Sandy. And I see the spirit of past deacons and trustee in not only the present-day elders, but also members of the congregation. Maybe they may not hold that title as elder, but I see the spirit of those past trustees and deacons. I see their spirit and the willingness to listen to the individual who has problems to deal with, and they pray with them. I see their willingness to roll up their sleeves and repair many fixtures in the church and its grounds. I see their willingness to teach a Sunday school class or organize Vacation Bible School every year. I see the willingness to visit the sick and the elderly. I see the willingness to organize an event such as a dinner for a family who has lost a loved one or just a special event. I've been blessed to have many elders and members in this church who have strongly influenced me, not only by their words, but also by their actions. And I thank the Lord for bringing them all into my life, and I appreciate you all. If I could just have you bow your head for a short prayer. Dear Heavenly Father, we give you thanks and praise for this day, a day to remember the past history of Middle Sandy and its leaders. You have blessed this community for 200 years with people of great faith and leadership and love for you. I pray their service to your church has brought glory to your name and will continue. In Jesus' name I pray. Amen.
Your gift of the keychains have our mission statement on them. And so we are now going to hear about our missions locally, nationally, and globally. So will those folks, Dave and Dorothy and Barb, share your messages?
I've been a member or a chair of the Pastoral Concerns Committee for many years. This committee is very dear to my heart. Some people call us the Card Committee, and I've been called the Card Lady before. We do send out monthly birthday cards for 70-plus birthdays and anniversaries and other occasions, but we are much more than a card ministry. We are actually kind of a branch of the Missions Committee, but we support the local missions. We can visit and directly work and communicate with the mission projects that we support. We have helped with food banks, school lunch fees, different projects in this church. We offer help and support for members of the church and community that are experiencing hardships. We have support referral lists for different agencies in each county, so we can help direct people that may come and contact us needing help. We pray for the church members and the community. We lift them up for God's care. We have also taken over the memorial committee duties, and we send thank yous and notifications to members upon the passing of their loved ones. The prayer chain was set up by Pastoral Concerns. We assist the pastor in visiting shut-ins and help with communion to those people that can't participate in a normal church life. Some of the current missions we are assisting with are Haven of Rest. That name alone sounds peaceful to me. It was founded in 1943 as a small storefront rescue mission. They respond to the physical, spiritual, and emotional needs of homeless men, women, and children. The substance abuse problem and increase in overdose deaths in the Akron area present very real-life situations for Haven of Rest. A quote from one of their newsletters says, "People who are made in God's image with value and purpose are lost to addiction." Their list of services is endless, but they provide emergency shelter, educational classes, meal and clothing provisions, and counseling. We also assist Christina House, which is a Catholic Charities regional agency that serves Columbiana, Mahoning, and Trumbull counties. We collect household clothing, bedding, food, and monetary gifts to assist their domestic violence program. Kathy has been great in finding us all kinds of items to take to them, which they love. They were established in 1997 and provide emergency shelter, case management, counseling, legal advocacy, and transportation. One of their directors came here in November and actually spoke one Sunday, and she brought along a worker who was a victim of domestic violence. We also support the Tobin Center in Lisbon. It's a youth attention center for males and females. They offer weekly church services, counseling on drug and alcohol abuse, sex education, conflict resolutions, and suicide prevention. A youth's life is like a piece of paper where everyone can leave a mark. We also support the Way Station, which is in Columbiana and also East Liverpool. They exist as a community resource for families and individuals in need while reflecting the love of Jesus in practical ways. 1 in 3 children in renter households face food and or housing hardship. They offer discount clothing program, food pantries, emergency care boxes, and school and Christmas assistance. They offer one-on-one prayer to the spiritually depleted, empowerment programs, job preparation, and hope to the lonely and lost. When you donate to the Way Station, you are breaking the cycle of poverty in your own backyard. The Alliance Pregnancy Center is a newer facility in Alliance, and they just added a new kitchen there to assist with the mom-to-mom program and help with cooking classes. In 2021, they distributed over 15,000 diapers and 130 cans of baby formula, which this year I'm sure will be a lot more than that with the shortage of baby formula. They have baby clothing, baby equipment, and toys. They shared the gospel 150 times, and 29 women prayed to receive Jesus as their Savior. They have had more abortion-vulnerable clients contact them lately than in previous years. Whatever their story is, God wants to write the next page for them. We partner with the Alliance Pregnancy Center to save unborn lives and give the hope of Jesus Christ. We are currently involved in the Change of Life campaign. You may have seen some baby bottles when you came in, and they have been distributed. People collect their coins and dollars and put in there. It runs from Mother's Day through Father's Day to help with their projects. I'd like to leave you with something by Goodreads, especially with this being Pentecost Sunday. Yours are the feet with which he walks to do good. Yours are the hands which with he blesses all the world. Yours are the hands, yours are the feet, yours are the eyes, you are his body. Christ has no body now on earth but yours. As we remember the past 200 years, let us look forward to doing the work of Christ and showing the love of God. Thank you.
Hi, I'm going to talk about our mission trip. The Damascus United Methodist Church started the mission trip in 2004. Willie asked our Dave Sokach in the year 2013 if our church would like to get involved with the mission trip. And our first mission trip, which is up on the screen, was Beloit, Wisconsin in 2013. I was asked to go, and I said, I'm not going and sleeping on no floor in no church. Well, 9 years later, I've been doing it for 9 years, and I live for the mission trip. Why do we go on the mission trip? It gives us a chance to learn and understand what mission means to others. It nurtures relationships with our mission group. It generates new friendships with families we are working with, and I still have several people from many of the mission trips that we go on. That picture right there is the picture that we take before we leave Damascus on Sunday, and each year we have a different color shirt with a different verse on the back. Some of our fundraisers, so we have the money to go. We do monthly breakfast the third Saturday of each month. Apple pies, we do carnation days in the park, strawberry festival, and this pays for our gas, meals, material for the jobs, and any other expenses that come up. And that picture right there is the group leaders when we were each Sunday night they meet and they discuss where they're going and the different projects that they have to do. That is our prayer envelopes. When we leave on Sunday, each person gets a prayer envelope, and throughout the week you have to write something to you. First we have prayer partners. It's one person special. And then we each do cards for everybody on the mission trip. And then they're up there. And then when we leave on Saturday morning, you are able to receive your envelope with all your prayer partners, what they have said or the things that went on that made a memory to them. Oh, that's one of the workers, Chelsea. They're out. The group leaders, which are adults, always show the younger kids what to do, and that's what they're showing, how to cut lumber or measure lumber in that picture. That's work on a roof, and that is one of the ramps that was a completed ramp that Dave and his group did in New York one year. That's the group that has just finished the roof, and they're taking their final bows on the roof. And we always meet a special friend. And that friend was named Sadie. And you can see Bryn and Joey and Chelsea playing with the dog. We always have a special friend that we meet. Just taking a break. You can see, but when we leave on Monday, everybody's gung-ho, and here they are by Wednesday afternoon on one of the sites. And there's the kids on Wednesday night, Thursday night, and Friday night. They're exhausted. They go right to bed. There's nothing more. And then every Wednesday, we have a day out. And this is our grill master, Lenny. On our day out, we normally go to some park where they can swim and have games, just a relaxing afternoon after they finish up in the morning work. And then we do celebrate holidays. As you can see Miss Firecracker there. We do firecrackers, we do birthdays. We had 16-year-old birthdays that we did, so we do celebrate too. And that was Chelsea's 16th birthday that they were afraid she was not going to be able to celebrate, but we celebrate with her on her birthday. And to end it is Thelma and Louise, which would be Pam and I, and you never know what we're getting into on the mission trip. The mission trip is a great thing to go on, and everybody's welcome to go. And when we leave there, we leave at the end of the week with a greater appreciation than probably we give to the people. And you meet friends that you'll never regret meeting. It's a wonderful thing, our mission trip.
I'd like to welcome everybody today for a historical time for Middle Sandy Presbyterian Church. My name is Dave Sokach, chairperson for our church mission committee. Also serving on the committee is Vicki Smith, Debbie Sokach, Valerie Smith, and Sandy Motz. Middle Sandy has been very strong over the years to support various missionaries and groups nationally and worldly. We have supported the following for many years and have helped God do His work around the world. We support the International Association for Refugees. Our missionaries there are Paul and Rainier Sidner. They're in France. He's a life ministry leader, a nonprofit agency devoted to missions of helping people survive and recover from forced displacement. They do this in partnerships with local churches, refugee churches, and the church at large. They are stationed in France. We also support Campus Crusade for Christ. This would be Lisa Wise, who used to be Lisa Smith, so she just got married. She's a local mission director for most of Ohio, Western Pennsylvania, and part of West Virginia. They lead teams on the front lines of university campuses throughout the area to become Christ-centered disciples. We also support Ministry Development Network. Their mission arrived as Abe and Diane Bible, working in the Ukraine. For over 20 years, we have supported the Bibles. They're Ukraine church leaders who in turn develop discipleship programs within their churches to reach their communities with the gospel of Christ. We also support Bridges for Peace Israel. Their goal is to support Christians in Israel in building relationships between Christians and Jews in Israel around the world. We also support Girls Town Jerusalem. This is Beth Lippoth Girls Town Jerusalem is a Jewish orphanage in Israel that provides hundreds of orphans, neglected, and abused children with security. We also support the EPC World Outreach. Missionaries are Jeff and Natasha Bain. They're in Siberia. World Outreach is the mission sending agency of the Evangelical Presbyterian Church. Their principal calling is to glorify God by starting church-planted movements among least reached people groups, especially with Muslims. We also support Concept for Truth. Their mission is to share God's truth about life around the world, providing counseling, recovery, and prevention, sustaining from his mental and sexual health. We support the Presbytery of the Alleghenies. Their mission is to exist to carry out the Great Commission of Jesus as denominations of the Presbyterian, Reformed, Evangelical, and Ministerial congregations. They have helped build schools in Sierra Leone. We also support the Evangelical Presbyterian Church. Things that they do, church planning, training, leadership, guiding pastoral transitions, and coaching with mindsets, global outreach, and training effective seminar speakers. We also support Samaritan Purse. We have supported them over the years with relief money for like the tornado victims and flood victims recently. We also support Trinity Theological Seminary. Trinity College of the Bible and Theological Seminary is a conservative evangelical Bible college and seminary located in Newburgh, Indiana. And we also support Cross International. Reaches of those in the deepest need around the world, helping them thrive through long-lasting partnerships with local Christian ministries working in their own communities. They empower, generate and believe who give financial and prayer support to Stanley advance their global and bring transformation change. We also have supported Forgotten Jews. This is supporting the Jewish people around the world. We've also supported Feed the Poor, supporting and providing life-saving aid to the poorest of the year. As you have heard today, Middle Sandy EPC is committed to the spreading of the gospel and to help as many people around the world through your tithes and offerings as we can to go through God's help throughout the world.
When Jesus was 12, he was in the temple asking questions and listening to the answers. And for many, many years, boys and girls, men and women have done the same at Middle Sandy. They have been here listening, asking, and learning. And George is going to share a little bit about our Sunday school program. And then we will stand and sing one of the favorite Sunday school songs, Onward Christian Soldiers. It's in your hymnal. If you don't know the words, you probably do. Okay, George.
Okay, Sunday school. In Europe, in their schools, they have religious education there and things, and this Sunday school or church school idea is a Protestant thing when they started to come over to America, because we have this wonderful idea of separation of church and state. So instead of getting it included with an education, proper upbringing, we've separated it so you have to come to church to get it. Slide. Long time coming to church here. Put on a Bible. We got our Bible when we had communicants class. We joined the church. They handed out the Bibles. The string of things on my breast, I'll talk about that in a little bit here. But they said, George, you can talk about Sunday school. So for my credentials here, we'll flip, I think it's a picture of, those were some Sunday school officers at the time. Dale White, John Proudfit, I think John was the Sunday school superintendent. He was also a neighbor at our house. I think when I was born, he was next door neighbor. And another time, John Stouffer lived next door, and he was Sunday school superintendent for a long time. And the note on the side about the singing clerks, Linda tells me, well, that's kind of what the superintendent was, is the singing clerk. So I don't know why I got to be a superintendent for Sunday school, because I'm not the one to lead songs at all. But my credentials, flip a page, well, that's probably the class of 57. The ladies over in the other church, there are a lot of people over there. I had scrolling downstairs the class of 57, showing all the people that went to church over there. They must have had to schedule people in and out for churches, because there wasn't that much space over there, and there were a lot of people shown in those pictures. So that was the ladies' Sunday school class there.
Look at all the hats.
The hats and fancy. My sister had this picture, and it's got Edna Wyrick in the book she's cut out, but behind Eleanor Willard is a woman there, and my sister thought it was our mother because it was right next to our Aunt Louise, but looking at the correction page that comes with the green book, if you have to get that, it says that was Vi Lindsay. So looking at the coat, it had some fur on it and things, so it's probably something that Vi would have worn and not my mother. So clearing that up. Next slide. My credentials, I was born March 30th, 1955, and I was entered into the cradle roll on March 3rd of 1955, a little over a month, and I started into Sunday school. So I've been here a while, most of my life, I guess you'd call that. Next one, serving as Sunday school superintendent, so part of my morning exercises where we sang, led songs, had announcements. I got to hold my daughter, who wanted to be with me as I was up here leading songs by saying, Linda, what's the next song? So some memories there. People probably remember me holding her up here till she got to the point where I couldn't hold her anymore. Next slide. And there's 1998. That other picture was 92. This is 98. So I was up for superintendent again, so I don't even remember how long I was doing that, but it was for a while. Next. Again, the Sunday schools. Besides the education of the church, there were picnics, there was, well, Vacation Bible School, which is a whole nother topic they're getting into. So there was a Sunday school picnic back in 1971. Again, that one is also from the Green Book. So it's got a listing of who's in the picture. There's a Sunday School Sunday, which is maybe similar to a rally day. Is that Reverend Dawson there? Is that who's in the front? Almost looked like him, but several people in there. Next, flags for Memorial Day. Elaine Wagner would always have a handful of flags, and we would, after Sunday school, we would march down to the Veterans Memorial and plant the flags down there. A few people we have lost and remember in there is Dick Humphrey, Chris Striefler, among others. So next. Receiving Sunday school attendance pins. These are not. Okay, these are not bottle caps, tabs put together. Perfect attendant, well, you're allowed to miss a couple of Sundays in a year to receive one of these pins. This has 27 of them on. If I recall, I think Stuart Johnson was maybe at about 35 when I got this. And I want to thank Pam for not wearing hers today because she has over 40, and hers would be 1.5 times as long as mine. So I can make it look like I've been here a long time and a faithful attender, but Pam's got me beat. So I will admit that. Next. Here's one of the Sunday school classes. I see my 1996. So one classroom meeting with a missionary who's still out in the field. So Dave Spurtle spending time with the kids there, telling them about missions around the world. I'm not sure whether this was a treasurer's meeting or a small class meeting in the office or something, but some people that we have lost here and fondly remember. And then just a couple sample pictures. This is from 1971. Chris, some of your pictures there, I shamelessly stole them out of the Green Book and scanned them in and was flashing them downstairs, and this is one of them here with the class. There's Danny Motz grinning at us in the front row. So again, it has the listing in the book of who's in the pictures as much as they can tell. Of course, there's one where I'm in a picture and I'm behind somebody, so you can't see me anyways. Next, some of the more recent ones, and again, parents and older adults have been teachers in Sunday school leading that, but we also drafted high school students to teach the younger kids. So there's Crystal Woods in her class. Or Kim, never mind. Yes. Primary school class, 1998. So yes, the next one, Sunday school class, 2008. These kids have gotten a little older since then. Another one, again, just some miscellaneous, the Amatola class. So we've had Loyal Workers, the oldest Sunday school class? Loyal Workers were the oldest. And then the Amatolas, we had the Mariners. And then you had the high school, junior high, junior, primary, nursery, those groups of people. Next, Mrs. Carver's junior class, 2008. As she has had many classes. I was one of the only Bushes that didn't have her for 4th grade in elementary school. And some old 1957 pictures in the old church. There's Bob Scott in his class, one of my brothers, David, in there. Next, that's maybe the last one, another class is that Jerry Proudfit, and my other brother Richard's hiding in the back in that picture as well. So is that the last one, Scott? Yep. Okay. So Sunday school, where people are taught the basics, the kids learn the stories, and the principles behind it, the principles of Christianity. The adults get together in their classes and discuss Bible stories and the deeper meaning of things. Or even the Mariners class. The adult class meeting downstairs, we've been gone through the Ray Vanderland series there with wonderful insights into the meaning of the Jewish thoughts behind these things. So when they make a statement about something, we don't have any clue, but he gets into what it really means, the deeper meaning, and it gives a whole better idea of what the Bible is talking about. So hundreds of people have passed through these doors and those doors over there going through this Sunday school program. And though they've moved on to other churches, to other states, around the world maybe even, they're all still part of the Middle Sandy church family. Onward, Christian soldiers.
748 if you want your book.
Onward, Christian soldiers, marching as to war, with the cross of Jesus going on before. Christ the royal master leads against the foe, forward into battle, see his banners go. Onward, Christian soldiers, marching as to war, with the cross of Jesus going on before.
The old church, we used to sing that from opening exercises, walking to our classes. Yeah, so we knew that song well.
I apologize for the tune for How Firm a Foundation, but I wanted my favorite instead of the one in the hymnal. Okay. There have been a lot of opportunities here at Middle Sandy for children, and Pam is going to relate some of them. Many of them she was in charge of. Pam?
I got you. Okay. I'm going to start with YF, youth groups. The ministers did it, I think, when my parents were in youth group. They would tell me about Mr. Reverend Holmes doing it and so forth. But when I was there, Bob and Helen Scott were our youth leaders. And every year we went on a canoe trip. Bob and Helen never hit a canoe, never got inside a canoe. They would drop us off in Loudonville, wherever the river was. What was the name of the Mohican? Was that the right river? Okay. They would drop us off, make sure we all had a canoe, and then they would drive off to wherever we were going to end up, and Helen would have a book, and she'd wave to us as we would go by. Never saw them in a canoe, but that we looked forward to that every year. My brother Randy lost glasses on one canoe trip. It was just sick. We always had to dump. Jerry was great at dumping people over. Yes, as we were in the canoe. Yeah, he's trying to look innocent back there. But we did do that. Carnation City Players started. I remember the first time going, Helen would take us to see the Carnation City Players. It was at Rock Hill School before it was even at the theater. And we would go see musicals or whatever was there, and I can remember us going to see those. Youth Sundays were a big thing when we were in YF. We had Noah. Remember we did Noah, the Bill Cosby version of Noah. It was hilarious. Sean Nicholson. It's Noah. We did Easter sunrise breakfast. Always Easter was at Mount Carmel, and we always served breakfast. And when I was in YF, it was little boxes of cereal, juice, donuts, coffee. Well, then, I'm so glad you're here, Jerry. Jerry decided when he came along, we needed more food. So didn't we have, sausage and pancakes? And yeah, we started upping our breakfast game after that, as we did that.
Bob and Helen retired, and then, Connie Stout and Brian, thank you, started doing it. And then we had Barb and Arden, and myself and Larry and Bonnie and Butch Riddle. And we did rockathons. What else, Barb? We did rockathons. We also did canoe trips, camping. We went to camp the one time, and we were going to go into this campsite, and we drove through, and Barb says, "We're not staying here." It was like wilderness or something in there. So we did find another one that we had to pay a little bit more for, but we didn't care. Leesville Lake, we stayed at my aunt and uncle's cabin, had to clean out all the mice dirt that was in all the cupboards before we could do anything. But that was fun times. We did have fun times at YF. So I don't know if there's any pictures, Scott, of YF there. Nope, I don't think that's some YF things going on there. You can just see some pictures. We had all kinds of things going on. This is a lot of times, I think Carolyn and Jerry had YF then. And so there were some things with them in there. There's a rockathon. There's Paula and Amy on the rocking chairs. Backwards Day. Oh, look, she knows what these are. Okay. So we just had fun times with the kids, always, with different things going on. Skits and, okay, there's Jerry doing something there too. I don't know what's going on, but and there's Adam, Valerie. Yeah. Adam did take over the YF for a while. And we had hired some people from Malone, some girls from Malone to do it. And so then we went on. Other things that we did were GLD, God's Little Disciples, that sometimes were called God's Little Devils, but depending on who was here. It was started by Myrtle Henning and Evelyn Fessler years ago when I was a kid. And then Jeanette Emmons and some of us started it back up in the 80s when our kids were younger. And we did, singing Bible stories and crafts and things. There is one picture I don't have of when the Easter Bunny came, scared the kids to death. They're all crying at the Easter Bunny, but whatever. Bible school was a big thing. When I was a kid, it was always at Mount Carmel because, they just built that new church. And they had more room than we did at the old church. So we would have it there, and it was 2 weeks. Yeah, we stopped that really quick, didn't we? That was like too much time, too much time. Helen led the music. I can remember still some of the Bible school songs that we learned. And in June of 1966, we made the front page of the Review when we marched through town from the EUB church to our church, saying God's not dead. The theme was God lives today. And it was a big thing. So we marched through singing songs as we came through. And there was always probably a good 100 kids or so. We did skits, and if you look at Bible school, there's some pictures of some skits. Lots of kids. We had lots of kids. I don't know who that is. I can't see. Can't see that little one back there. But there's Doris bringing some kids down. There's Reverend Neil. He was in the skit. We've got some with Tom was in the skit. We had kids, the teenagers, all kinds of people. Crafts, there's Vicki getting ready for the crafts always. She was my craft lady all the time. There's our cookie ladies, Linda and Dee, getting snacks together. There I am leading the singing. I only sprained my ankle once, though. That was pretty good. I fell off the steps and did that, but yep, we had good times. Swim parties. We had a swim party up at my mom and dad's, the pool. We camped out one night when we had a camping theme. We went canoeing when we had that one theme. We had an Olympics, picnics, tug of war. Only once. We haven't had a tug of war for a long time. We had a boy that decided to wrap the rope around his thumb and pulled, and his thumb came off. That was fun. Yeah. Amy put it in milk, took him to the hospital. Yeah, it really did happen. We'll never forget that one. They tried it. No more tug of war. We just said that was the end of the tug of wars. And he wrapped his arm around his waist, the rope around his waist before that, and I kept saying, you can't do that, you can't do that, and he did it anyway. No more tug of war. So that was the fun times there. Then we had Geauga Lake trips. Every summer, we piled all the kids into vans, cars, and headed for a day of fun. The kids had to learn Bible verses, books of the Bible, all kinds of things to earn points towards getting their trip. So if they did everything, got enough points, then they got a free trip. I think the Strawberry Festival helped pay for the trips for a while, and we did do that. We loved it. Although Vicki and I just hung out in the wave pool. It's like 2 hours, come check in, we're gonna be in the wave pool. We just, yeah, we weren't riders, so as we went through there. And another thing that we did with the kids, started with the Tree dinner, started with the YF. When Connie Stout and I were doing YF, we started the Tree dinner probably, I'm gonna say in the late 70s, early 80s. The YF did the program at first, and then we had Sunday school classes, adult skits, as you can see from some of these pictures coming up. And then we had kids programs. Oh, this picture isn't from Tree, but that's Helen Scott and Norm Humphrey. The Amatola class used to do funny skits. So that's some of them. There's Uncle Ray. I just had to put those in there because they're. And there's some Sunday school kids either singing or sang a part or something as we went through. We had all kinds of different people that did skits. And there we are decorating the tree. We had themes for the tree ornaments some years, music, family pictures, nativity, stars, or just bring whatever you want. We would sing, of course, around there's Logan and Brian. Oh gosh, the two angels. Yeah. Michael and Gabriel. Yeah, they were angels, all right. Perfect casting. Okay, and then there's some other ones that we had costumes for them. So we had just good times. Lots of people would come. Fellowship Hall would be full. And then, of course, at the end, we would sing around the tree. Mom would be playing the piano, and I would lead the singing in there, so forth. So there's some more pictures of all the people as we got through all that. So good times. Anybody have any memories to share? I was just going to say, feel free. We're good? Yeah. Okay, so I think Amy is going to do the next one. Okay.
I'm going to talk about Presbyterian women. I was voted president after just starting to go. I think I was the newest person, so I didn't know any better. So I got voted president, and no one else has taken it from me since, but the first mention of the ladies of the Presbyterian Church was in the late 1880s in the Green Book. They were sponsoring a raspberry and strawberry festival and dinners, and that certainly hasn't changed in the 200 years. We still are surrounded by food at every event that we are involved with. We have been under different names over the years. The Ladies' Aid was the first name that I could find that was official. And then the Ladies' Aid and the Mission Committee, and then they combined and they were called the Circles, and they met in the mornings and the afternoons and the evenings, and then they all combined. It's all over the place. But I think, Monica, did you start Presbyterian Women or change the name? I don't know when it became officially Presbyterian Women, but it's been PW for as long as I can remember. This was, I don't even know if that's Presbyterian Women, but I'm sure it may have been back in the day. Some of the women there. Grandma Freshley's in the bottom right. We've been involved in many fundraisers over the years, but the most familiar ones were obviously making hardtack candy and the serving of the dinners for the area organizations. And the money we made from those helped with, we buy the Easter flowers and the poinsettias now. We help supply the kitchen, and we got area kids book bags last year at the Homeworth Homecoming. We've helped Operation Christmas Child mail their boxes. And the most recent one is we are trying to raise money to get new curtains in Mom's memory for the sanctuary. So that's our newest endeavor right now. We also are involved in the funeral dinners, and we get them organized. But one of my fondest memories when I was little is when my grandma Freshley was in, I don't even know what it was called then. What was it? Yeah, that they always sponsored a little Korean child from overseas, and she always wrote the letters, and she got the letters back with the picture of the kid. And I always enjoyed reading those letters from Korea about what the child had done for the month. But that was one of my biggest memories of when she was in it when I was growing up. And we also did the mother-child banquets, which the fellowship hall would just be packed full, and there'd be a theme, and there would just be people everywhere. Those were my biggest memories of Presbyterian Women, because Mom went to it my whole growing up, and she's always been around it, and it's always been here. So if anyone has any memories or things they can remember about anybody from Presbyterian Women, but I think the biggest thing is probably the hardtack candy.
Well, that's one time when the men got to come and serve.
You got to come and serve, yes, you got to be a part of us. Yes, you got to serve us. Thank you so much.
Okay, so the last part is on fundraisers. And as Amy said, we did serve a lot of dinners. We had cooks in this church that were just wonderful people. Ruth Ann taught me how to make gravy. I can do it now without any problem. Ruth Ann Stouffer, of course, she was the head cook at Knox when we were at Knox, and then she was the head cook of, I think, all of West Branch eventually. And Pat Humphrey, gosh, I just can't even remember. There's so many. Wimp Helen would be in the kitchen, so many people. Martha Wallace in the kitchen. And we would have Swiss steak dinners, chicken and biscuits, spaghetti suppers, oyster suppers. We served the Lions. We served the Rurtans. And so Knox Senior Citizens, forgot about them. Yeah, so those are some fundraisers we've done. The Strawberry Festival, we used to go pick the strawberries. That was, bring your kids and let's go pick them at Sainers or Stouffer's. And my memory of Strawberry Festival, as Vicki and some people will attest, we did the turkeys at church the day before, made the turkey sandwiches, put it in the fridge. We didn't let the turkey cool off. When we got here the next day, the turkey had all soured and we couldn't serve it. So no turkey sandwiches that year. It was all, sloppy Joe and hot dogs. That's what you get. So yeah, we learned a lesson that year. You've got to let that turkey cool before you put it in the refrigerator. We just thought we were doing so good, getting it ready ahead of time. And the Strawberry Festival, the last few years, has been used for the mission trip. It was kind of nice. We would get that money, and then Dorothy and I would go shopping for food for the mission trip before we left. A hardtack candy, as Amy mentioned, it started in Elaine's kitchen when we lived up on the hill across from the Mount Carmel Church. And it was a fundraiser for Presbyterian Women for Christmas. I still have people say, do you have any hardtack? Do you have any hardtack? And we haven't done it for a couple years. It's hard to get workers, that hot things there and so forth. The church would smell for weeks of peppermint and anise and cinnamon and all that good stuff. And then the Canfield Fair, there's candy making. There's some pictures there of Ruth Ann. And we had a huge tent, if anybody, and so I know many of you sitting out here will remember. It was down by the grandstand. They served breakfast, dinners, roast beef, turkey, ham with real mashed potatoes. I can't tell you how many mashed potatoes I peeled. I remember just sitting there peeling piles of potatoes. We also served hamburgers, hot dogs, French fries. Bob Scott was on the fryer all the time. Homemade pies. We had a huge thing that had slots in it that they would put the pies in. And we would
Green tomato pie was a favorite. So people would have to come, and Grandma Freshly would make green tomato pie. There was a morning crew, as Chris can attest. I was never part of that crew, no. And then, as Aunt Ellie said, then the morning crew would go home and make pies for the next day. We picked up pies, cakes, and supplies at Davidson's garage. And then on the way there, to get your free tickets to get in, you had to stop on Leffingwell Road somewhere by the railroad track. There was a sign, and there was a mason jar with a lid. You would get the mason jar, get your tickets out, and then go back to, and then they just kept replacing these tickets. So we would get free tickets or passes or whatever it was. But every time we go past that place, I'll say, that's where we would go get the tickets. Yeah. The kids, I remember, all wanted to serve the pop. Nobody wanted to clean tables. Nobody wanted to wash dishes. We wanted to do the pop, but it didn't always happen. Teen boys would spend the night, as Chris mentioned, with Bob Scott or Norm Humphrey, chaperoning to keep watch. But it really brought our church family together, and we were there from sometime in the 50s, I'm not sure. 1958 in the Green Book, it says we made $3,284. But I know we stopped in 1972. That was the last year we went. Because of gas? Is that what it was? Okay. Gas shortage. Oh, okay. Okay, I remember those years, yes. Well, I was in high school. But that's all right. So anybody else have any memories of fundraisers, things that we did and we want to share? This is sharing time, or just kind of, I see lots of nods. Yeah, I remember that. So, okay. We're ready for the next thing.
Okay, we have reminisced about Middle Sandy, from Middle Sandy Creek in 1821 to Middle Sandy EPC in 2022. Now Scott's going to tell us about the future. Okay, Scott? Are you a prophet, my dear?
If I knew anything about the future, I'd be playing the lotto tomorrow mornings. But we've heard about this church family for the past 200 years. The one constant through it all is that the head of this church has always been Jesus Christ. And the work that this church has done over those 200 years has been phenomenal. I can't say how long we'll go on for. 5 years, 20 years, 200 more years. We don't know. But I do know this. The members of this congregation will continue to follow Jesus Christ. And that is the most important thing. Whether this building stands, whether it doesn't, whether this congregation stands or not, the people are this church, and the people will continue to be this church. On a Sunday in September of 2001, the Mason family first darkened the doors of this place. And we weren't running back to church after September 11th. It took us that long. We lived in the area for 3 months before we knew where Homeworth was. To tell you that the joke about where Homeworth was, we had no clue where it was. We were looking at Presbyterian churches. But when we found it, it didn't take us long to find home. And since then, we've found home here and a family here. And that family, we've lost members of that family. We've gained members of that family. And that's what's gone for 200 years. I can imagine that long ago, some other family did the same thing. They walked into the back of the church and they felt like they belonged. And for those of you that have been gone for a while, you walk back in and you feel like you're home again. That's this church. It really is. And it's not this building. It doesn't matter whether it's that building, this building, the log cabin, whatever. It is the fact that this church loves each other and loves God and continues to spread that. And I'll leave you with this because it reminds me of where a house we lived in before we moved back to Ohio. We were in Rhode Island, and we had in our front yard, and I've told this story before, but some of you probably haven't heard it or don't remember it. We had a maple tree. We lived in a house that was 200 years old. Now, you can imagine living in a house. This church is 200 years old. The house we lived in was 200 years old. And it wasn't the oldest house on our street by 170 years, because there was a 370-year-old house on our street. New England's a little different than Ohio. But we had a tree in our front yard, maple tree, which the University of Rhode Island had pointed out that it was the oldest maple tree in the state of Rhode Island. It was enormous. It was as old as the house. It was 200 years old. It was a gigantic tree all the way around. It dominated the whole front yard. And there were people who would drive past our house to see this giant tree that's still there today. But there was another tree in the front yard, a much smaller tree. And in the fall, that tree would turn the most beautiful orange. It was the most gorgeous tree, this little tree that was dwarfed by this gigantic tree, had its moments where it shone every fall. That's this church. This church has its moments where it shines and overshadows all the other churches because of the love and the care and everything that this church contains. And so, what's here for the future? I don't know. I can't tell you. I know members out there go, when are you going to find us a new minister? Well, I don't know, because we can't find one. But I do know that this church will stand together and stick together and continue on as we move forward. So there's a saying that's become popular, and I heard it when I was a little kid, and I never understood what it really meant back then. My great-grandmother was Ukrainian, and she would always say, Slava something, Slava, Slava. She would all the time say that. And now I see these shirts that say Slava Ukrainia, which is blessings to Ukrainia. So it was my great-grandmother's way of swearing at me, actually. When she would say Slava, I didn't realize that she was saying blessings. God bless you, Scott. But Slava Middle Sandy. Amen.
First of all, you'll notice that there are many beautiful petunias here, and so many of you donated in honor and memory, and so you are free to take, don't take the big ones up here, but any of these take home. That way Pastor Mark and Carolyn won't have to water all week. You can water them at your house, so they're for. Okay. My heart bubbles up and overflows in appreciation for all who helped for this. We had our first meeting on February 28th. 10 women volunteered and have done much, much work since then, in addition to the guys that sweat and did the outside and the ones of us who worked inside to do the cleaning. And we really appreciate all that you did. And now, as Presbyterians, it is decent and in order that our two pastors will close our meeting. Thanks to everyone who came.
Another moment for a retired pastor to stand in front of you for the next half an hour at least, or 45 minutes. Maybe not. I thank Scott for his words. It was nice to have you come and visit with us, first once and then a lot. I realized that my name was on the program when I got here today to do some closing remarks, but let me leave you with this. Scott said it very wonderfully about this congregation. But when I was in seminary, it would have been 1991, 92, 93. I graduated in 94. So for about 2 years of that, I was praying for the church that I would end up pastoring. And my hope was that I would be able to go to a church and spend a long time there. I understand that even today, average pastorates are about maybe 3 years long, give or take a little bit. It's not very long. I didn't think that was long enough. Should be longer. So I was praying for this congregation at least 2 years before I arrived. And it paid off. I so much appreciate this congregation and being able to serve the Lord here with these people, with you all, with the people who've gone before in so many ways. People that we loved and they loved us, and it was those wonderful relationships, and those of you who are still left. But I would leave you with this idea. I know that you're still searching for a pastor. Are you praying regularly for that pastor? You don't know who it is yet. Old, young, you're not sure. But you can pray for the person that's going to fill this pulpit sometime very soon. And the more of you who are praying, and the more you pray, the sooner that pastor is going to be here. And you'll be on your way into the next phase, the next chapter in the life of Middle Sandy. And I'll just leave you with that thought.
It's been 5 hours. So thank you all for being here. It's been a special day. And actually, I wasn't going to share much, because y'all have been here for 5 hours. But, you know, as I was listening to Tom speak a little bit, I was reflecting a little bit on just my time here. And some of you may not know that before I became a transitional pastor here, actually a long time ago, about 7 or 8 years ago, I was in seminary. And Middle Sandy became a place where I had the opportunity to learn, to supply preach, to go to presbytery meetings and General Assembly with some of your commissioners. And so, we keep talking about how when you've been a part of Middle Sandy, you come back, it's still home. There's that welcome home. And I remember the first time I preached here, I preached a sermon, and I almost loosely call it a sermon now. And there was an illustration about an eagle in it. And I was so mortified my first Sunday back here to learn that Elizabeth Mason still remembered that sermon. But from the time of the sermon about the eagle, Middle Sandy has meant so much to me. I remember at the end of that service, Scott was the ruling elder in charge. They would call the elder that would lead worship along with the supply preacher. And he would say that when you're here once, after you're here once, you're part of the family. And so Middle Sandy, for me, has been a place that I learned ministry years ago, and then became a place 2.5 years ago, as I was looking for what was next for me, became the opportunity for me to come home, as I was at the time several hours away. So this is a special place for a lot of people, and I've experienced that, and I want to say a big thank you for the way that we see Christ at work at Middle Sandy. And we don't know what's next for Middle Sandy, but what we do know is that God knows what's next for Middle Sandy. And Christ is ultimately the one that leads Middle Sandy. As the elders say, that the first duty of an elder at Middle Sandy, in the EPC, is to uphold the mind of Christ, to seek the mind of Christ in all that we do. And so, without further ado, happy anniversary, 200 years. Would you receive the blessing as we get to enjoy the nice weather out? And our closing blessing today is from Jude chapter 1, which I think you'll find very appropriate for this anniversary celebration. To him who is able to keep you from falling and to present you before his glorious presence without fault and with great joy, To the only God, our Savior, be glory, majesty, power, and authority through Jesus Christ our Lord, before all ages, now and forevermore. Amen and amen. Have a great week. Thank you for being here.